that is one thing to be left outside. Thank you for letting me in. Can you imagine if I just stood up there and waited? Hey, would you open up your Bibles to Revelation chapter 3? We are finishing up Revelation chapter 3. Man, that would have been strange to leave me outside. Revelation chapter 3. So we are in our study here of the book of Revelation, and we finish up the 7 churches that are mentioned here in Revelation this morning. And here we are in Revelation chapter 3. And let me just read one verse for us. Jump down to verse 20. Revelation 3:20. See, I stand at the door and knock. You are much sharper than first service. First service was like, if anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and eat with him, and he with me. Here's the question. Here's the question for this morning. The question is this: is it possible that we can go about our church business? Maybe even more specifically, can we go about our own lives and leave Jesus out of it because we don't really need him? That's the question. Can we go about our church business, or maybe even more specifically our own lives, and leave Jesus out of it because we just don't really need him? We would probably never say that, but functionally, is that how it works? Let's begin by answering that question by reading the text here of the letter to the church in Laodicea. It's here, Revelation chapter 3, verse 14 to the end of the chapter. Follow along with me. Here's what the text says. Write to the angel of the church in Laodicea. Thus says the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the originator of God's creation. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I'm going to vomit you out of my mouth. For you say, I'm rich, I have become wealthy and need nothing. And you don't realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so that you may be rich, white clothes so that you may be dressed and your shameful nakedness not be exposed, and ointment to spread on your eyes so that you may see. As many as I love, I rebuke and discipline. So be zealous and repent. See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and eat with him, and he with me. To the one who conquers, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I also conquered and sat down with the Father on his throne. Let anyone who has ears to hear listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. Here we have the final message to the 7 churches in Revelation. It's a letter that Jesus is saying to the church, a gathering of Christians who have a serious, debilitating diagnosis from Jesus. I mean, you just when we read this, it's a church that was for God that left him out. He's on the outside. Let's see how it starts here. Verse 14, right? The angel of the church in Laodicea, thus says the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the originator of God's creation. Each of the letters, Jesus begins by giving us a picture, again, so often reflected in what we saw in Revelation chapter 1 of who he is. We're told here that he is the embodiment of truth. He is the faithful and true witness. In other words, the faithful and true witness. He calls it like it is. What he sees, he just calls it. And he is the creator and king of all. And he looks at the church in the eye and says, I know your works. I have to wonder what would be maybe going through the mind of the Laodiceans at this point. As we talked about with these letters, they were letters that were delivered to these 7 churches. So a messenger started in Ephesus, and then worked his way all the way around in what is modern-day Turkey, and it's a big circuit, and so hits these different churches along the way, and has a message to each of these churches. So all of these letters, these words have been heard by Laodicea, and so now here is this message to this church in Laodicea. And so if we were there, we'd be like, oh, I wonder what Jesus is going to say. In almost every one of the churches so far, all but one of them, there has been something that has been commended for in the church, right? And each of these churches is like, man, you've done really well in this. This is wonderful. I just applaud you in this. This is great. And so the Laodiceans, I would have to think, would be wondering, oh, I wonder what Jesus is going to say. There's lots of things. Jesus, if you need help, let me know. I've got a list of things of why you should praise us. And so what is it that Jesus is going to say? That is, I'm just wondering if that's what's crossing their mind. And in verses 15 and 16 is Jesus' message to this church. Verse 15, I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth. Whew. That is not the message I'd want to hear. Jesus shows up and he's like, I got a message for you, Summit Ridge. And he lays that out. How did that impact this church? The way that they are living made Jesus want to puke. You're neither hot nor cold. Wish you're one or the other. You're lukewarm. Yuck. What's going on there? For years, I would read this and I thought, either hot nor cold, and he wants us to be either hot or cold, and I'm like, I thought it's good or bad, and I'm like, well, good or bad? Like, yeah, they want you hot or cold. And fuego, on fire, you're hot for the Lord, or you are cold towards him. Just make it clear, not lukewarm, not in the middle, be one or the other. And I just don't think that's it, though. I just think I was reading it wrong. What's going on? Hot or cold? I don't think it's good or bad. What's going on? Just as in all of these letters to the different churches, Jesus gives metaphors that each of the churches are going to be able to pick up on, because Jesus knows what's going on in the church and he understands the culture and the society in which they live. And so each of the metaphors that Jesus gives to the churches, they would clue into and go, oh, yeah, no, I get that. It makes sense for him. Jesus, in the same way here in Laodicea, is picking up on what they would understand. Something that was very important to Laodicea is their water source. How do they get their water? And nearby, here in Laodicea, the Lycus River was dirty and unfit for drinking. And so they couldn't drink that water, and so they would have to pipe their water in through aqueduct system that came from miles away to come in for water for them to be able to drink. And so one of the cities, in fact, had hot springs, and it was 5 miles away. So they built an aqueduct for 5 miles to bring water in from all these hot springs. You'd go to this town with hot springs, and it's just that is good. It was good for the body. It was tonic. And then, but by the time that 5 miles that water runs through, it finally gets to the Laodicea, and it would be. Similarly, the town that's not too far from Laodicea is Colossae, and they would also bring water in from that. So they ran pipes through all the way through, and Colossae had cool, fresh water, and it was just refreshing water. It was nice and cool, and so it would come in, and as the waters came in, they would meet and just be yuck water. And in fact, some archaeological evidence indicates that there was calcium carbonate content in the water, that if you drank parts of that water, it would make you want to feel like you want to vomit. It just makes you feel sick. And so what's going on in this? That they would be... they are neither hot nor cold, representing what is good and pleasant. The symbolic of what is you are lukewarm and it is repulsive. The waters in both of these other cities would be either refreshing and it'd be productive and invigorating in these certain towns, but by the time it gets to Laodicea, it's lukewarm and it is brackish, and just you feel sick to your stomach after drinking it. So what is Jesus getting on about here? What is it that Jesus is? What is it that makes Jesus want to vomit when he thinks about what is happening in this church? It's in the first line of verse 17. What's so revolting? Verse 17, for you say, I'm rich. I have become wealthy and need nothing. So, interesting, it's not false teaching that he's calling out, or immorality, or idolatry. He's not calling out any of those things. Those are all things that he's rebuked churches for, and some of the other churches that we've looked at. That's not the case. What is it that makes him want to revolt here? Jesus is disgusted by the fact that they seem to have no sense of a desperate need for him. For you say, I'm rich, I have become wealthy, and, I think this is the key words, need nothing. I don't have any needs. I don't need anything. I'm good. I'm good. I don't need anything. Maybe seeing Jesus as just a nice addition to all of their things. They had security, they had enjoyment, they had comfort, they had everything that they needed. They don't really need him. What's Jesus rebuking is they reeked of self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is what the church in Laodicea was infested with. self-sufficiency, and independence. I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody or anything else. I'm good. Maybe another way to put that. Practical atheists. Practical atheists. I live as though God doesn't exist. Obviously, I'd never say that, but virtually just practical atheists. You don't need God. It shows up in that kind of heart, shows up in complacency. Or even another step from complacency is it shows up in apathy. You're unmoved. Your heart just, It's certainly, it would be a Bible-less, prayerless, and yet duty-filled. Lots of duty. A transactional kind of thing that happens with God as opposed to relational. It's transactional. The church in Laodicea just doesn't really need him. They're rich, self-sufficient. They have money flowing in, and they didn't really have a need for God. And my guess is, again, they would never say that. Oh, we don't need God. What Christian would do that? But functionally, that's how they thought and lived. They're like, we're doing all right. We've got a healthy savings account. We've got land. We've got insurance policies. We really don't need anything. We can get a little boost here and there. It'd be nice, but we're good. What I find fascinating in that kind of condition, though, Jesus, the faithful and true witness, says differently. Here's the real condition. The real condition of this church is in that second part of verse 17. And you don't even realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. In other words, you are in a miserable condition, and you don't even know it. You live in squalor, and you don't even know it. You're in a miserable condition. You say you're rich, but you are poor. Each of these, in many ways, metaphors that the church would latch onto, they would get. They said they were rich. He says they're poor. They're rich. They have so much money in Laodicea. I think it was in 60 AD. There's a massive earthquake that hits this region, and it does all kinds of damage to the city of Laodicea. They had so much money and so many resources. Typically, what would happen when there's a big, massive earthquake like that, just like we're seeing now, all kinds of rescue comes in, all kinds of resources, the government comes in and helps. In this time, the Roman government would often come in and they would provide all kinds of assistance and help rebuild. You change your name to something Roman and they have a little more power and all kinds of things. Laodicea had so much resources, so much money. They're like, we're good, thank you. We'll do it ourselves. And they rebuild and they put it all back together. They don't need at all any of the resources that were offered. We're rich. And Jesus says, you are spiritually bankrupt. You're poor. And you're blind. Again, interesting little tidbit here. Laodicea, well known for a medical school there in in Laodicea. Go there for becoming a doctor, and one of the primary things that they would do was ophthalmology. They had a specific salve that they would give for the eye that would help people with eye problems. We help people see. And Jesus says, you are blind. You don't even see. You think you can see your situation clearly, but you don't see it at all. You say you need nothing. I say you're naked. Interesting again. The city is well known as well for luxurious textile industry. Specifically, they produce black wool. And would just bring in lots of money, and so they had the money and they looked good. And Jesus says, you are naked. You clothe yourself, but in fact you are naked and you are exposed. With all that Jesus gives, He is the one who gives the riches of His grace and mercy. Jesus gives the grace of His mercy. He just pours out. He gives sight to the blind. He gives clothing, and when He clothes, He covers over shame and guilt. He clothes the naked. And they don't even know it. A church that is all about God, that has left Him out, and they don't even know that they need Him. No thanks, we're good. We don't need anything. Jesus is speaking in Luke 12, and He's speaking to those who are ultra planners. They plan and they try to control everything. And in the midst of all of their trying to control everything and all of their stuff, they feel extreme worry and anxiousness. And Jesus says this. He says, the Father knows what you need. The Father is the one who provides. Imagine a church that says we don't need anything. We're good. Even with that kind of attitude, even with that kind of attitude, it is remarkable to me. I don't know how you would respond if you're anything like me. If somebody was like, "I'm good. We don't need anything." Forget you. I'd be like, okay, have it your way. I'm out. What I find fascinating is that's not the heart of Jesus. Jesus just keeps moving in, and He moves toward even attitudes and people like that. It's here in verses 18 and 19. Look what He says. I advise you, or I counsel you, to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so that you may be rich. White clothes, so that you may be dressed, and your shameful nakedness not be exposed. An ointment to spread on your eyes, so that you may see. As many as I love, I rebuke and discipline. So be zealous and repent. Jesus is saying, here is what you are to do. Here's your true condition, And here's what you're to do. What you want, what you actually want, what you actually need, He has. This was verse 18. I was reflective of Isaiah chapter 55, verses 1 and 2. Listen to this. Listen to what Isaiah says in Isaiah 55, 1 and 2. Come, everyone who is thirsty, come to the water. And you without silver, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without silver and without cost. Why do you spend silver on what is not food and your wages on what does not satisfy? Listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and you will enjoy the choicest of foods. That's here in Revelation 3. It's this invitation. Come. Come. I have what you need. Now, you may read this, and particularly as you get to verse 19, as many as I love, I rebuke and discipline. So be zealous and repent. And you're like, yep, that's the God that I know. And you get maybe even a little fixated on this, this rebuke. I rebuke and discipline, so repent. And yeah, that's the God I know. He's the one that's just waiting for me, and he's going to thump me. And you can focus in on this and get a little off kilter, and because you are absolutely, it's a new concept for you maybe this morning, that there can be loving rebuke and discipline. You just aren't familiar with that even phrase. It's interesting here that the most undeserving of all the churches is the one for which Christ declares emphatically, he's emphatically stressing the kindest of feelings. You can miss it here. As verse 19, as many as I love. It is, in the original language here, it is an emphatic I love. This is Jesus moving toward them. It is Him moving and stepping toward them. And the Greek word for love here is the word phileo. It means a tender affection. I have a tender affection for you. He's moving toward them. Even with all of this that has been said, He moves toward them and loves them. He loves them enough to tell them, what do you need to do? Proverbs 3:12 says, the Lord disciplines those whom He loves. As a father, the son delights in. He loves, He disciplines, He rebukes. What you get right here, as many as I love, I rebuke and discipline, is you get a picture of the heart of God. The heart of Jesus is moving in to those whom He loves. Again, maybe this is a foreign concept that you would, can you actually love and rebuke and discipline? That in our culture today is if you love somebody, you just approve and you just applaud them and say, oh, you do you. That's love today, and that is not love. That is not love, and it is not biblical love. If If a believer is walking in a destructive direction, they need somebody who is going to speak truth into their life. Now, that can be done terribly, or it can be done with tender affection. Moving toward, and I pray that somebody would love me enough to point me towards Jesus if I am walking in a destructive direction. Somebody that loves enough to move toward. This is what he does. He loves, he moves toward, and so as many as I love, as I have a tender affection for, I rebuke and discipline. So be zealous and repent. Be quick, be all in, turn to me. This is where verse 22, let anyone who has ears to hear listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. You have the possibility of sticking your fingers in your ears and saying, I don't need anything, thank you, I'm good. Or the Spirit of God is speaking and you listen. And you see, Scripture is intended to be a mirror to your life. It's a mirror to your heart. It's intended for you to look and to see what's going on in you. And so what do you see? Do you see? Or are you're good? Yeah, I can use Jesus a little bit here and there, but pretty good. I really don't need anything. And with that kind of heart, Jesus says, be zealous and repent. You're needy. In Psalm chapter 40, verse 17, the psalmist says this, as for me, I am poor and needy, but the Lord takes thought for me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, oh my God. I am poor and needy, but you, I am not forgotten by you. I am poor and needy, but you are my help and my deliverer. So don't delay, oh my God. The Lord takes thought. What is this passage doing to you? Maybe here's part of hard things to look at. I wonder for how many of you, your interactions with God are far more, they're transactional than they are relational. Transactional. I was meeting somewhat recently with a friend, and he was going through a job interview, and it was on Zoom. And so before the job interview, he was told to make sure when you get on and you go for your job interview, make sure you do your hair and you dress nicely and then blur your background. And they told him all these different things to do, and he's like, duh. It's a job interview. Like, well, of course you do that. Why would you not do that? And so obviously they had to tell him that because apparently people don't do that. But so anyway, if anybody's looking for a job, do your hair, dress nice, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I'm like, isn't that how we treat our relationship with God? I got a meeting with God here. look good, do your hair, and blur the background to make sure that he doesn't see everything. It's just a little blurry. And then we get on with God, and we're like, okay, God, thanks for meeting with me. I'm sure you're busy. A couple things, if I can just... if you fix this is just this is a real mess. And if you can do this a little bit short, and can you fix that person? Okay. Well, thank you. Leave meeting. Click, and away you go, and you get on with your business as normal. You know what that's called? Transactional. I think a lot of Christendom is done in a transaction with God as opposed to relational. So something is different in relationship. Imagine a marriage, and maybe some of you can absolutely imagine a marriage that is just transactional. We just communicate the details. But marriage is intended where there is relationship that goes on. There is sharing, there is openness, there is vulnerability. In fact, Genesis chapter 2 says they were naked and unashamed. Relational. God wants a relationship. I'm letting you in. There's no blurriness on the background. No, you get to see the whole thing. It's not just transactional. The bullets. Here's the main points, God. It's relational. And for some of you, that is going to be a new concept. The Spirit of God is speaking, and you're like, I don't think I know anything different. What are you talking about? My Christian walk has been just, invite him in, gives me fire insurance, and, he helps me out. I get into a pickle, and he fixes those things. Generally, I'm good. Here's what I found in my walk. Relational is that I am inviting the Lord in to all the areas of my life, all the messiness. What I've been learning in my own life is that certainly, I go to the Lord when I am in a trial and things. When I'm in a trial, I'm not wanting. I'm just happy here. We're good. No, I want God to change my circumstances. But here's what I've discovered: sometimes He does, and sometimes He doesn't. What is undeniable for me is that He is always with me. He always is with me. There is not one moment that I am alone. And so whether He changes my circumstance or not, I know I am not alone, and He will carry me through it. This is what He does. I am so needy. I need Him. It drives me bonkers. How many people say, oh, you know the verse, God helps those who help themselves. FYI, that is not a verse in the Bible. That is, the Greek word would be rubbish. That is garbage. That is not the way of God. No, I am desperate. I am needy. I need Him. I'm not okay. I need Him. What happens so often in Christendom is that we want Jesus to come in and help us in our flooding boat and bail water. I just want you to bail water. Come partner with me, Jesus. Come be a partner with me in my boat. And Jesus doesn't want to come and be a partner with you. He wants to come and be king. We give him control. We release. We trust him. We invite him in. He becomes central. And his will becomes my desire. Needy and needed. You hear that regularly here. Here's one of my concerns with saying that semi-regularly. One, it just rolls off our tongue. Oh yeah, we're needy and needed. Here's what I'm afraid you might hear. Of course, I am needed. And I can see there's a lot of needy people here, but that's not me. I am needed, yes. But you don't feel all that needy. Here's questions I was thinking of. Do you hide your needs from friends, family, church members out of embarrassment? When you struggle with temptation and sin or addiction, do you try to conquer it alone, or do you seek godly help? When making life decisions, do you think through it yourself, or do you seek godly counsel of others? Do you allow small sins to linger because they really aren't harming anybody? Not that big of a deal. When no one is looking, do you say or do things that you wouldn't want others to see? No. We really are needy. And needy, it's not like I just need a little boost from Jesus. A little extra vitamin C today. It's going to be a tough one. I might be coming across some tough things. Jesus, I need a little bit more vitamin C today. I just need you to help bail water. No. What we need is to fall in love with Jesus. We need to fall in love with Jesus. I was just listening to a testimony of a friend of mine who was saying he had been a Christian for some 40 years, but it's only in the last 10 years that he fell in love with Jesus. This relationship is all about our dependence on him. Nothing on my own, but what the Father has. It's trust of him. Can you imagine a church that functions all their little business and leaves Jesus out? That's the context here. We always see Revelation 3:20 as kind of evangelistic, and it is, but the context is he's speaking to the church. See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he with me. I stand at the door and knock. That the verb form of knock suggests a insistent, repeated pounding. Open. Do you hear it? It's open the door. The Lord wants to come in and dine with you. How personal is that? This picture is the church that's gathered for a meal, and Jesus is excluded and stands outside and is knocking. But if they hear his voice and invite him in, he will gladly fellowship with them. That is the beauty of the heart of God, to move toward. He moves toward us. This is his promise. It is a promise for you. It's a promise for you. This is part of what you're seeing here is the beauty of Jesus. The beauty of him, his invitation to you. To not just come and do more duty. To come and not just check the boxes, but to come and dine with him and he with you. It's an invitation. The invitation to come. Because each of us really is that needy. And so he says, come. Wonder how this passage strikes you. I wonder what the Spirit of God is saying to you. Will you have the ears to hear, to listen? My concern is as well is that you will sometimes maybe feel the conviction of the Spirit of God. There's areas of sin in your life, places where you've been building your own kingdom apart from him. And there's sin, and you will feel conviction, and you will ignore that and not repent. So will you hear what the Spirit is saying? This invitation of the beauty of Jesus is for us. As we have done, we've shifted our services so that we have more time at the end of the message to respond. Instead of just hearing the word and we close the book and out the door we go and go get a football game and a good sandwich. It's a place where we want to respond to how the Spirit of God is leading you. What is he saying to you? And it's specific and it is purposeful, and he wants you. We want to respond in a couple of different ways. One of those is with communion, the Lord's Supper. If you're a believer, we invite you to share in that. If you're not a believer, you just let the elements pass on by. But we're going to take communion, and it is just one of the ways that we have physical reminder of the blood and body of Christ that was broken and poured out for us. It is a physical reminder of a place where we get to say, thank you for your love. The tender affection that you have. Thank you. And so the ushers will come and pass those elements out in just a moment. And then we usually take it together, but today what I want us to do is just take it when you're ready. Would you consider your own heart and consider what Jesus has done, and then when you're ready, just take the elements, and then in front of your chairs, there's a little place you can stick your cup, and you can put your cup there, and then we'll continue in our worship and our response. Here's another way. Another way to respond is right across the hall is the prayer room. And maybe you would like prayer. Maybe you would like that somebody to pray with you. There's things on your heart and your mind. It is the prayer room, not the advice room. We simply go there because we want to bring their things before the Lord. If you'd like prayer, the prayer team will be there. There'll be 3 people, and they would love to pray with you. And so that's available during our time here in worship. So we'll turn the lights out and just consider, what is the Spirit of God saying to you? Let's worship.